Hey y'all, and good now, whenever and wherever this finds you. Welcome to today's episode of Pontification by TC. Today I have a special opportunity. My latest joy was to make snippets out of an interview that a radio station did with Jimmy Dore. And they had a Zoom of all four of them together, and so for me it was to take snippets, and I had a really great time, and so I want to share some of those with you now.
That's how screwed up the culture is, and we're in such a cult-like atmosphere now. There's no other way to describe it. It's exactly cult-like, and people, it's funny to watch super famous people experience it, like Patton or Jon Stewart. Same thing happened to him when he did the joke about the COVID-19 originating from the Wuhan lab. And it was it was a brilliant comedic piece, and it made Stephen Colbert very uncomfortable. He kept trying to take the legs out from underneath the bit, but Jon Stewart was such a comedic force, he just kept going. And at one point, he got up off the couch, out of his chair, and walked to and did the bit directly to the camera because Stephen Colbert was being such an asshole. I'm sorry, can I say that on the radio?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I applauded him for it. And what happened to Stephen Colbert in his liberal bubble in polite society was that he was shunned. He was called names. He was, how dare you? Because the establishment wants us in our silos and our bubbles, and they want us to be reprimanded when we step outside of them. And that's exactly what that is. And so they were looking at Jon Stewart. You're a traitor. How dare you repeat something that Republicans say? That's how they saw it.
Right.
That's how. And Jon Stewart and it was very soothing and funny to me to watch his producer and Jon Stewart realize or learn the fact that the wet market theory was a Democratic theory, and that the lab leak theory was a Republican right-wing theory. And that they were called right-wingers and alt-right, and he was told to go F himself, and I'm done with you. He couldn't believe, well, yeah, John, that's how cults behave. And that's why it's so heartbreaking for me. Jon Stewart, he experienced it firsthand, what's wrong with this culture and where this is coming from. And they want us to hate each other and blame each other instead of blaming the handful of people who actually control this country. And he experienced it, and instead of pushing back against it and trying to educate people about what I'm saying right now to you, that we're living in a culture that is actually a cult. And that instead of having good faith discussions about things, people are shut down over the fear of cancellation. And that's called narrative control. And that's all in service of the establishment. Like, that should be the book that Jon Stewart's writing right now about how that works. I shouldn't be writing books. I'm a pothead. He's a guy who got honored at the Kennedy Center. Right. So I don't know why I'm making the focus of this him, but because he experienced it, and instead of blowing the roof off it, which he has the ability to do, he went on a kiss-ass tour of the establishment, and he never said it again. And he did a softball interview with Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton. And anyway,
I want to thank Radio Uninvited, a place for critical thinking with an edge. WPKN Radio, popular late night segment, Radio Uninvited, feature Bob Johnson, Akeisha Hussein, Bryce Noble, and Ariel Ray, bringing the conversation to the masses in a weekly exchange with thought leaders, politicians, change makers, and pop culture personalities. So thank you so much for sharing this with us today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you down the road.